Hi guys, Jamie again from Taylor Walsh, and today we are joined by Charles Hart. Those of you that have watched our video anyway about the COVID-19 and how it's affecting business from 3-4 weeks ago would have seen the interview we did with Charles then. But this is obviously just a catch up with Charles to introduce him to everyone in the local community as one of Milton Keynes' finest, if not the finest, mortgage broker in the area.
You're too kind, Jamie, clearly.
How are you, buddy? You all right? You well?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, very well. How about yourself?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good, actually. Considering we're still, week 5 now, is it? Week 4, week 5, stuck at home?
Lost count, long time ago.
Yeah,
it's one long day at the moment.
So. It's week 5, but yeah, it's long. I know that much. It's starting to take its toll a little bit now. I think I've noticed it a lot more in the last few days of how we are just stuck at home, mate. But what's surprising me actually is the amount of inquiries and things we are still getting, and I'm not sure if you're finding it the same. Are you still been able to do much business at the moment, or are you still just touching base with clients? Or?
Yeah, for sure. It's a different world, isn't it? There's no doubt. And it's interesting you mentioned about feeling differently, because I'm certainly keeping a close eye on social media and seeing people's opinions changing every few days as it kind of goes from supporting things to being anti things, and everyone, I think you can just tell there's a bit of tension now, I think, with people being at home for a long time. But yeah, things are still happening, obviously not as high a volume as before, but things are still going very well. So you mentioned about the inquiries there for yourself as well, so that must be good to see people still want to buy houses.
Yeah, totally. And I think the mindset's changed a lot. My mindset's changed a lot in the last kind of 3-4 weeks. But like I say, I'm only kind of acutely aware of how different we are right now. And what we're doing, or what I'm doing, is deciding on what's going to be different for business going forward after this. Because there's certain things that we've implemented, like these video conference calls and video valuations and video tours on properties and things like that. And for me, it's a bit of a no-brainer, really, why we don't do this anyway. And like video tours on Rightmove and things like that, they're working really, really well to give people like a feeling like they're at the property. And it's things like that which we'll implement going forward. So in hindsight, although this is it is a horrendous situation, however you look at it, this whole pandemic and the deaths and things it's causing and what have you. But for business, again, it's catastrophic for lots. Others will ride the wave and get back to normal. But I think that what it's taught me out of anything is that, inquiries are still coming in. People do want to move. What we're having to do now is implement ways of still being able to show people in a safe manner and secure manner properties that they're interested in. If we had been doing video tours on every property before this pandemic, then actually we'd have a really good solid database of houses that people could see around now. The only ones we've really got tours on at the moment are ones where we've got vacant properties we've been out to and we've done a video tour, whatever. We've put that on the site now, so when someone inquires about a property, we can say, check this out, have a look at this, and it's all on the YouTube channel. And the people that are at home that are still motivated sellers because they've found someone already want to buy, or they're still desperate to get the property sold, a lot of our landlords and a lot of our vendors have been really, really good in the fact that they're actually doing their own video tours on the mobile. So we kind of give them an example of what it should look like, and off they go, and they're kind of walking around doing the tour, and we're just kind of editing it slightly, speeding it up, maybe slow it down, whatever. And it's working really, really well. We've got a few offers on properties from that alone.
Brilliant.
And it's working. Again, it's not normal. It's not business as usual, like lots of people are saying, which I still don't get why people think business as usual right now, because it's far from it. But But it's slowly it's working, and it's allowing people to see what they want to do. And again, I guess in your game, a lot of your job, I guess, is on the phone, talking to clients, video meetings and things. Did you do it much before, or?
Not video meetings, really, no. I mean, I've always been there, but I never had the thought process, I suppose, or the need to do it. But it's really cool to do, isn't it? It's nice to have that engagement. And I was quite concerned. I mentioned in my last video with you that obviously I quite like the face-to-face side of it, and so do you. And that's kind of the one thing for me was, how is it going to be without that connection? Because it's nice to get to know people. It's nice to understand what they really want. It's nice to work with human beings rather than just a piece of paper.
I really want the wallpaper. That's what I really
What
want.
say again, sorry?
Your wallpaper. I really want that.
Well, I had to up my game after last time, didn't I? For your funky one. But no, I think honestly, it's something that I want to keep around. I think it's good. I'm not thinking for every call you make. I think my face can be a bit much after a while, a few seconds. But you know, but I think certainly there's times when there's clients that you don't meet for a few weeks, or they work away quite a lot. Rather than to wait a week to book in for a face-to-face to have the same emotional connection, you can just do it the same day now, which is great. I mean, I say we could do it before, but none of us did. And that, for me, is just gold. And seeing these team meetings out there and people saying it with their staff, with their customers in a really good, clear way. You know, I've never been one that likes reading a massive wall of text, for example. Imagine if we had, a 20-minute video down in writing. It's just not going to work. I've had clients say to me, can you please explain to me how a mortgage works? And if I did that in writing, it'd be a bit of a Bible, it'd just be really boring. But having a conversation where you can have this chat just kind of makes it more easy to converse things, I think, and get things across and have an understanding of each other of what each other really want to get from the conversation. Whereas emails can be misread so often, can't they, about what the intent of them really is. So I'm really enjoying it. Despite obviously the bad reason to have to do it, obviously, but it's nice to have new things to learn in the process. So
yeah, absolutely. So for yourself then, and people understanding who you are, what you do, Charles Hart is obviously LionHart Mortgage Solutions. And what is it you actually specialize in? Is it generally just residential mortgages? Do you do anything commercial? Do you do, remortgages, life insurance policies, things like that? What's the main benefit of speaking to you?
I'll probably summarise it as probably mainstream mortgages. So, applying for a mortgage as a first-time buyer, home mover, help to buy, shared ownership, remortgaging, product transfers, that kind of thing is the day-to-day business that I will deal with. For customers that deal with me also that have commercial requirements, that I can refer to people that I deal with very well, very closely, that do a lot of buy-to-let business right now as well, actually, even before and whilst it's going on. Buy-to-lets are still very much a business, they're an income stream, so they really don't often pause for things that cause delays elsewhere. So yeah, lots of business that way. Also a lot of insurance work as well, so life insurance, income protection, critical illness, building and contents cover, business protection I can do as well. So there's lots of different things available that I can talk about, and I'd like to try and provide a really focused service, but one which gives a lot of the main angles there as well.
Fantastic. So at the moment, have you still got clients that are inquiring for new mortgage products or buy-to-lets, I guess, still going ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, volumes are obviously lower than before because people, they can't get out of the house to go and view potentially if they're quarantining themselves, for example, or various reasons. People who may be on furlough or holding fire to find out when they're back at work, I think, in some cases as well. But there are still buyers out there who either really want to or need to move. And there's a lot of people that are still working full-time, people that need to be at work, key workers, for example, and people that can still work full-time just at home. So actually, a lot of the world, you just can't see it moving, but it is still moving. So clients are calling now, and I think it's a great idea to get hold of a broker now, because a lot of the banks can't talk to you at the moment, because a lot of them have got staff on furlough, because they've got big call centres, they can't work in those environments. A lot of brokers have been furloughed, unfortunately, as well, but there are still people like myself out there that are still working. So if you're sat at home, wondering what you can afford, wondering what you can go and buy once this is all over, then you can give one of us a call. We'd love to help out because we're still here, and I'm very lucky in my respect that everything's on a laptop. So phone and a laptop and I'm good to go. So there's no difference at all to the service from normal.
Fantastic. And you mentioned about people that are being furloughed at the moment. So people that are furloughed, obviously the good thing is they've got lots of time on their hands to deal with things like this, and obviously start looking around properties or start speaking to people like yourself and give you a shout to get a new mortgage product in place. How will furloughed affect them getting a mortgage?
So lots of different, to answer the question, from different lenders actually are changing their opinions and changing their stances lender by lender, or even some of them are changing it weekly as well at the moment. So in general, there will be a risk assessment carried out if you are furloughed. Very few lenders will kind of not want to know about it at all. In fact, every mortgage offer that I know about will state in it, if there's a material change of circumstances, you need to let us know prior to exchange of contract. So there is an obligation there on people to have, do the right thing, not only for the lender, but for themselves, because lenders are assessing clients based on what they apply on. And if that income's then changed, is that mortgage still affordable? That's the big question. So it's about just being sensible. I've had clients that have got mortgage offers in the last few days, and going through the last few weeks regularly, they've been coming through still. So banks are still working, same as us, like I say, we're still able to do it, just not visibly, not in a big call centre. So offers are still coming out, and some of those clients have been furloughed. Say one recently that had been furloughed, but actually because the employer was paying the full wage still, there was no change to it at all. One that's been furloughed previously down to 80%, but it's still fit and affordability, so there's no change to it at all. It's just making sure it's sensible, and is that client going to return to work once it's all over? Because if someone gets let's go, which is obviously very unfortunate, they shouldn't be taking a mortgage out until their income's being secured again going forward. And that's the advice that I would give, let alone a bank, because if you can't afford to pay the mortgage you've taken out, you're going to go into a downward spiral, aren't you? So I think a lot of it is just common sense. I've seen a few more extreme examples. A couple of lenders are not taking into account overtime, for example, or commissions, so it's all settled down. But they've been very clear in saying this is a temporary measure. We just want to understand what's going on in the market, what's going to happen, when are we going to get set free again, so you can go out and do stuff. So interesting world to be in right now.
Absolutely.
It's still good, still moving.
And funny enough, there's a question I received this morning, actually. Someone emailed me, and I was going to give you a shout on it today anyway, but it might be good to bring up on this video, because there's someone that's interested in buying a house for £370,000. And I think they're looking to put down just shy of 300,000 and get a mortgage for about £80,000. What they were saying to me is that hopefully, because it's only an £80,000 mortgage, they might even actually be able to push this sale through, because it's a vacant property. They might be able to push it. They're in rented and the landlord wants their house back, so they deem themselves as an essential move. And what they're saying is that because they like the house, they want to proceed with the house. The thing that's going to slow them down, obviously, is waiting for a mortgage valuation to happen. However, with it being a small amount percentage against the cash they're putting in, what's the likeness of a lender just doing like a drive-by valuation or something like that in order for it to still go ahead? Would they consider that more now than ever, or is that something that they would say, no, we still want to visit the property?
You've absolutely nailed it. So lenders before, some of the bigger ones, the classic, the Halifaxes, the Santanders, Nationwide as well, were doing online valuations anyway beforehand. At quite a low loan to value. So say, for example, your mortgage is 60%, deposit at 40%, they'll be more comfortable because there's quite a good margin of error there for them. And for you, obviously, as a client as well. But from their point of view, that was the norm for a lot of high street lenders. What we've seen happen in the last 4 or 5 weeks or so is that's become more of the norm for other lenders, so they're kind of catching up with the times and being more technology advanced. And we're also seeing that the bigger ones are pushing it to the higher loan to values. So 70%, even 80% in some examples, they're doing these online valuations. What you won't necessarily see is many lenders doing it at 95%, because it's obviously quite high risk at that level for them if they can't see the house. There are still lenders out there that are braving it, but just not very many. And what you'll see more so is that remortgages, they will go to a higher loan to value than a normal purchase. It's lower risk for the bank. There's less of an issue with it from doing it. They know the asset. They've already been out to value it, presumably a couple of years ago, or maybe even longer. As long as you've been paying your mortgage on time and you can evidence that you've got the income there to do it still, they are happier to lend. So the main thing I would say is the mortgage market is not shut down. My clients said, I didn't know the mortgages were still being offered, and they absolutely are. There's less as there was before, because 90%, 95% loan to value products rather than lenders have kind of been postponed for the most part, not completely, but for the most part. However, there are still mortgages being applied for. There are still lots of mortgages to choose from out there. And banks I've seen coming back into the market in the last few days and week or so as well. Lenders that have kind of been in their shell from the start and gone, we're going to see what we're going to do, have now come back and said, let's lend again, but just very cautious levels, without taking it too far.
Yeah, okay, fantastic, mate. So
in short, they can. That's the short answer. Sorry.
So the mortgage market at the moment is everyone's still very much pushing forward. Everyone's still very much happy to kind of start the ball rolling on cases and bits and pieces. It's only if you're getting a higher mortgage at the moment, obviously. I know that a lot of lenders, or most lenders, or every lender really shouldn't be going out doing valuations at the moment. Do we know if they're going out and valuing any properties that are vacant, or is it? just a case of
As far as I've been told, there's no surveyors out there right now. I think because a lot of them travel quite a long way as well. It's one of those things where you can't just nip down the road on foot. You've got to get in the car and drive, and that's what they're actively saying don't do. So I think it would be irresponsible, wouldn't it, to go out and do that unless it's completely safe.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the question was be really, because ultimately, if they go into a property that's vacant, they're still obviously having to meet up with keys, surely, or a homeowner to get keys. And
can't be given the key, can they? Obviously, because that would presumably cause a legal issue for you guys, wouldn't it? I'm guessing as well. If they stayed in the house.
We're not able to go and meet a surveyor to drop keys off or anything like that. So I didn't imagine any other agent would be doing the same. It's a bit reckless, really. I think in what we're going through.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just interesting to see, obviously, the ones that are going ahead, how it's happening, and it makes a bit more sense now, knowing that if they're smaller loans of value or higher loans of value, or who's able to get something across the line now, as per, if you're, say, a first-time buyer with Help to Buy or something like that, it's more risky, isn't it? And the fact that you're not going to be completing now, if you haven't already, until this pandemic's over and the government say we're allowed out.
But the dangerous thing is, though, if you get into a mindset with it and stick with it without checking, you can be left behind a little bit, because it literally, my emails, I get more emails daily now from lenders than anything else, just updating different things constantly. So I think it might be that I say to a client one day, actually, there's nothing available, at the moment, for example, but the next week it could be 3 or 4 options again. So I think it's really important that people don't fall into a pigeonhole and think they can't move for 6 months or a year. A lot of clients can still move, especially if you've already seen the house, because obviously prior to the pandemic kicking in, if you had seen it and you're happy to go with it still, that's completely on your choice and your prerogative. The big question mark in your question that I wouldn't feel comfortable necessarily putting my thumbtack on it is whether they could go and view it and whether they can move in, because that's where the government's kind of said, I don't know, well, better than I do, to be fair, but I've not seen that myself. Have you seen much of that happening? People actually going and viewing houses, or people have actually tried to move into vacant properties?
No, mate, we've done a lot of, like I say, the virtual video tours, and we've got owners that are at home, are doing kind of like they're getting the video phone and they're walking around and they're videoing properties themselves, and we're creating those videos ready for people. And we've had quite a few people put offers in on properties in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks now.
Good.
And said, you know what, we love the house, we've had a look around. If someone says they want to see it more in depth, then again, if there's someone that lives at the property, the homeowner lives there, then we've had a few that have been really good so far, and we've created like a Zoom video like this, and we've had the vendor, the buyer, myself, or Barry, and we've kind of facilitated it so we can kind of be there as a 3-way chat. And the buyer said, "Oh, mind going back in the kitchen again?" And the owner's kind of gone. It's actually been quite fun so far. Everyone we've done has been really entertaining, and it's actually built quite a nice rapport between parties as well. So I think everyone has so far has said, like, we've sold, I think, 3 properties by doing that in the last 3-4 weeks, and reality is every one of them has said, subject to it being as is when we physically go there ourselves, we're happy to kind of get the mortgage in place and get everything else done. But in the meantime, solicitors are starting the local searches and inquiries and things like that. So we are still kind of ticking along, doing what we can that's allowed, basically. But yeah, like you say, at the moment it is a very, very kind of tricky situation, and you can do only what you can do. But it's nice to see that
safely, obviously, as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I've noticed as well is you see on the news and things, and you see on like Property Industry Eye and things like that all the time, saying like the market's going to crash and things like that, or the market's crashing, things like that. But I've actually had no evidence of that so far.
Oh, good.
People that are buying at the moment, the only ones, unfortunately, that have had have fallen through or on hold at the moment, really, as such, or on hold at the moment. But the ones that are really on hold are the ones where people have been furloughed, or they may have lost their job at the bottom of the chain. We're having to kind of establish really where the weak link is, and can it be resolved, and if it can't, then who are we going to replace the buyer with, and things like that. But no one's actually run up to say, I think the market's going to crash, I'm going to pull out because I think that the property is expensive now. We've not had anybody that wants to put their house on the market not put it on the market because they think, again, something similar is going to happen. I think we summed up in the last video we did. It's frozen. It's not crashed. It's simply frozen. And I was still a big believer that once all this is done and said and done, and everyone's back out again and mingling. I think there's a lot of people that have got apartments that will now want gardens because they're been out and about as much as they can be at the moment. Lots of people that are away from family that will probably want to get closer to family now in case someone.
Yeah, sure, good point.
I think there's a million reasons why the market will not boom, maybe, but why the market will still steadily just fall back into place again. And I'm a firm believer that will happen. And I think Milton Keynes to me has always been a bit of a golden egg anyway, where we're so close to London yet so far in terms of pricing. There needed to be that little bit of a kind of marginal gain as well for us getting slightly closer. And I don't necessarily mean London prices coming down, but we certainly find that at the moment probably 2 out of 10 inquiries or more are Londoners wanting to move.
Still that high? Wow.
Milton Keynes, yeah. So we're finding it a lot, especially at the moment, a lot of just the inquiries we're getting are people from London. And when we're speaking to them qualified, just having a chat with them, we're saying to them, why Milton Keynes or why this particular property? Is it just this particular home, or is it any others that we've got interest you in? They've all kind of, you can tell when they are from out of area, because a lot of them don't really know the area very well. So there are questions more like, what's the schooling like around here, or how close is there any public transport and things like that. It's really nice to be able to advise them with what's what and what we know, and local Ofsted reports and things, and guide people into the kind of properties we think may suit them. But a lot of them are coming from London or areas like this where it's a lot busier. The schooling might not be as suited to them as what they could get in Milton Keynes. So we are finding that a lot, and I think we'll find that probably a bit more now as well. There's an awful lot of apartments and things in London. From what I've just gathered last week from speaking to people, well, the 2 people I spoke to from London, both of them were in apartments, and both of them said if we sell the London apartment, we can buy a really nice 4-bedroom home in Milton Keynes with a garden and great schooling, all the rest of it. And they've got friends that have already made the move. They both had that in common, and they're looking to make the jump now themselves. They want that big garden, family home, and all the rest of it. So I think it'll be a good opportunity for the Milton Keynes community to kind of get back up and running with it in the property market anyway, get back up and running without too many problems. London may be hit, and I think if anything happens with the market, it normally is like London, Manchester, like the cities that tend to take that hit a little bit more, unfortunately for them. But I think genuinely, I think that we'll be okay. I think if it does drop the market pricing, I think it'll be because people are automatically assuming that that's what's happening because of what's
right. It's more of an in your head thing rather than
absolutely. And once one does it, you tend to find that some people follow suit. And unfortunately, you get a lot of bad advice from agents, maybe even if I'm honest, where they'll turn around and say to their owners, "Next door's reduced. You need to reduce yours." The reality is why do you need to reduce it? Where's the evidence that says you have to reduce it because of X, Y, and Z? Is it just because your neighbour's been given some bad advice? Well, actually, if they get sold tomorrow, then they're no longer that much competition because they're not available.
Sure, good point,
Stick to your guns, take a positive look at actually what is my property worth. And that's what people need to be doing, having a proper serious think about what the market is doing. And if the market has dropped, why? What's the proof of that? And how can we maximise the price from your home still? And that's one thing I think that we'll be concentrating on after this, and while we're going through it now. Anyone that is on the market or needing some honest advice, I think that's the most important thing they should be doing is research as to what is it doing in my local area? How much is my house genuinely worth now? And are there many people around? And then I think the flip side is obviously for you is that the more buyer inquiries we get and the more people looking to sell, you're the perfect for us to put them in contact with, so you can qualify them and see what they want to do.
Sure.
Whether it's homeowner looking to take money out and buy something else, or relocating, or a first-time buyer coming in, or what have you. And that's great with the synergy that we've got to be able to kind of give them honest advice from both sides to make it a seamless transaction.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with that. And I think it's interesting you mentioned the golden egg thing again, because Milton Keynes, we mentioned before, we've both kind of been through the recession here previously in 2007, 2008. And, we're old enough to have lived through that and seen Milton Keynes be well above the headlines in the newspapers. National papers are looking at up north and looking at London, looking at the big cities, where they will probably get hit a bit harder if anything does happen. Not saying that it will. For me, it comes down, predominantly to two things. It comes down to demand and supply, obviously, and it also comes down to financials. Can people afford it? And I think what's great with government's kind of furloughing scheme is everyone is still at least earning. If you imagine now half the country laid off work, no income, I think it's without a doubt the market would be hit. No one could argue that point. But
the government have stepped in and they have kind of put
Yeah,
that into place to
yeah,
avoid that recession, to avoid that massive kind of influx
yeah,
of people no longer working, pulling away. And
yeah.
I think that's a big reason why I'm more confident in the fact that actually I think we'll be all right. I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, yeah. As you mentioned, you're still getting inquiries, coming through. I think you mentioned Easter weekend, you had loads of inquiries even then. People could be out in the sun and still looking at houses because that's drive, isn't it? We've got more time ever to sit out there having beers or wines in the sun, but they chose to be emailing agents instead. And that's, I don't do that for fun necessarily. I don't know if you do or not, but I'd rather do it because I need to move, so.
Yeah, that's it. No, you're right. We did. We had the Easter weekend, the Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We had over 50 leads come in, sales and rentals.
It's a
That was,
lot, isn't it?
but that was
Yeah.
50, there's 53 different individual clients that had emailed in about different properties. So, like I say, some were rentals, some were sales.
Yeah,
But it just goes to show that actually people are looking to move still. People do still move home, and right now, I mean, again, I said it earlier. At Christmas, you spend 10 days at home, and people forget what day and time it is, and things like that. After 10 days stuck at home, that's when people realise, beginning of January, we realise the house is too small or it's too far away from family or we need more space or actually I'm rattling around this big house, I don't need it anymore. You think what it's going to do to people when they've been in the house for 2 months, Lily?
Yeah.
It's going to be bedlam. I think it's going to be absolute bedlam. And the key thing is giving people the right, honest advice. Why you're moving, how much can we maximise out of your home, and where can we get you to move to?
That's why calling you is important, isn't it? Getting hold of you and you and Barry and the guys there. I think you guys are doing really good from what I've heard from Barry. You've got online reports, really detailed ones showing the comparables still, and you're doing, as long as you can get the photographs or video from the client, and that actually sounds really fun to me. If I was a seller, being able to go and get video of my own house, that's a good thing for the day to do as a project, isn't it? Again, tidy the house up, make it viewer ready, do a bit of a directorship on a video. That sounds really enjoyable, and it's usable, it's friendly. And I've been looking at a few of them being nosy, as you do on Rightmove. And actually, I agree, doing them makes more sense. I find it far more engaging than doing just photos. I think if I was to see a house, you do wonder, is it a good angle? Is it a good camera? But the video can't lie, can it? The video shows you exactly how it is. You get a real feel of what rooms where, better than the floor plan. I can see why you're doing it. It makes a lot of sense.
And right now is a good time to have a look at them as well, because in reality it is people just in general, that walking around with a mobile phone.
Yeah.
Raw footage, it's just raw mobile phone, and we can speed it up.
Filters.
But I'm not that technical, so I can't lighten and brighten and make things look big or the rest of it. You're seeing people's own mobile phones at the moment, walking around their houses. So there's a few that we've had back. I was reviewing this morning and Friday, where we've kind of gone back and said, you need to get the cat off the bed and the dog out of the kitchen. Ideally, but it's all part of the fun.
Move that mirror,
Nobody out there that we're dealing with, they're not professional videographers and things. So be handy if they were. But yeah, I mean, you got to take everything with a kind of pinch right now of what of what we're trying to do to try and make it happen for people. And it's the deadly serious people that are on the market selling that are saying, I want to keep pushing forward, and it's working for those people to say, anything we can do to make that happen, we'll do it. Here's a few options that we've got in mind that may work. Can you do X, Y, and Z for us, and then we'll do the rest, and we'll get you still in front of as many people as possible to try to keep you moving forward. But yeah, I think the key thing for anybody that is looking to move, and I've always said this from day one, not just now. First things first, they need to speak to a broker. They need to be picking up and calling LionHart and saying, Charles, I'm looking to move home. This is my budget. This is what I've got. Once they've identified how much they can spend going forward or what have you, then they can come to us with a clear picture of, I'm looking to move, I want to put my house on the market, I believe it's worth X, Y, Z, can you just confirm that? And I've already spoke to the broker, so I know what I can afford going forward. So if you say it's worth this much, I can spend that. If it's worth this much, I can spend that. So we all know exactly where we're at. So it's about how many people we speak to that haven't had any real mortgage advice yet. And when they speak to you, I think you're great at converting people to use yourself, because it makes sense, and you can get a genuine answer for them of actually where they're at and what they can spend, and the best product available for them as well, rather than just that one quote from their own bank they've had online. I think it's so important that people do pick up the phone and speak to yourself or people like yourselves just to find out where they're at first. So it's great to know you're still working now. You're still able to talk to clients now as well and get that ball rolling for people. And I'd urge anyone that is looking to move to do that first. Pick up the phone to you, and I'll share your number here as well, if that's all right.
Thank you. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the chat right now. Obviously, the cabin fever setting in, so the more conversations, the better. Really, keep me sane. That should be the pledge. Hashtag keep me sane. But
that's it. Yeah. We'll hashtag that on there for you, mate. Keep you sane.
Thanks, appreciate it. But, can I mention about with new builds quickly? That's right as well. Just because I've had quite a lot of inquiries come through about new builds recently, because it's kind of one of those weird areas where the builders haven't been communicating that much kind of en masse, and they won't do because they're competing, of course, as well. But seen a lot of variety of new builds. Some sites are still open in terms of building, but pretty much all of them that I've seen are closed in terms of sales. So contact's been very hard because the user numbers aren't working. Unless you get hold of a head office, it's quite hard. But they are still sales progressing. A lot of builders have been really good actually at kind of allowing extensions, because often they'll kind of commit to a 28-day exchange deadline, as you'll know, which right now is just not going to happen. So they've gone, do you know what, we'll have our hands up, we're going to give you 3 months extra or 2 months extra, or we will come back to it in 3 months' time, which raises where we are then. So if you're buying a new build and you can't get hold of your developer, keep trying. You won't get hold of them, or call your broker because they'll know what to do with it, I'm sure, as well. In terms of Help to Buy itself, now there's been interesting news on this recently, because the scheme was meant to be changing next April. So people had to be applying by December if they were a home mover. First time buyers, it won't change at all. It carries on for first time buyers as normal. That's not going to be affected. But any home movers had to agree to purchase by December and move in before April 21. There is talk currently of that possibly, and it is possibly being pushed back a little bit because of what's been happening. So opportunities could be there again to keep the market pushing over. There's also talk potentially, and there's lobbying currently for other incentives. I won't mention what and fuel the fire without fact, because it hasn't happened yet, but there are a lot of big companies that are pushing the government to do more housing-wise to help out buyers and to keep the market active even through the fire schemes. That's really good actually to see. But Help to Buy themselves have put in writing to me a few weeks ago actually, I meant to mention in the last video, that if you've got an authority to proceed, which you'll know what it is if you're looking to buy a new build, if you're not and you want to find out, let me know. But if that's going to expire, don't worry. When they receive the authority to exchange from the lawyer, they will automatically extend the authority to proceed to match the authority to exchange. So that's brilliant. It means you haven't got to apply again. Those that have been through it this year have seen the delays from Help to Buy this year. They have been quite lengthy due to a lot of changeovers on the back end systems. Won't go into that boring stuff now. But Help to Buy are doing their best, and they are still working from home, and they are still issuing ATPs as well, and ATEs to exchange contracts. So yeah, if you're buying a new build, don't despair. Things are okay. You're being looked after by Help to Buy and the builders, from what I can see as well. If you're not sure, just get in touch with your builder or your broker.
Fantastic. That's really useful information. Thank you. So, okay, again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for the invite.
No problem at all. Again, we'll put your details below. So anyone that's looking to get a mortgage in the future or start looking at the process now, here's your guy. Give Charles a shout. Again, Charles, thank you so much, buddy. And we'll catch you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Stay sane. See ya. Bye.
Take care. See you. Bye now.
Bye.